The whip cracked across Malin Chen's back for the third time that morning. She bit down on the leather strap between her teeth and kept her eyes fixed on the mountains beyond. Silver Creek. The torn silk of her wedding dress clung to her shoulders like broken promises. Master Wang circled her slowly. His voice carried across the town square in sharp Cantonese. You will honor this arrangement. You will not shame your family further. Bartholomew Holt stood in the shade of the general store, arms crossed, watching. His investment being disciplined. The miners and merchants gathered in a loose circle. Some looked uncomfortable. Most looked away. Mei Lin's wrists burned against the rope binding her to the wooden post. The sun climbed higher. Her silence stretched like a taut wire. From the ridge above town, Ayana adjusted his field glasses. The woman below had not cried out once. Not when they dragged her from the church. Not when they tied her in the square. Not when the whip found its mark. His horse shifted beneath him. The Mari sensed his tension. Wang raised the whip again. Your stubbornness endangers us all, Mr. Holt. Has been patient. His patience ends today. Holt stepped forward. I paid good money for a wife, not a wildcat. The words hung in the desert air. Mei Lin lifted her chin. Her voice came clear and steady. I am not cattle. Wang's face darkened. The whip whistled through the air. Ayana was already moving. His mare thundered down the hillside, hooves striking. Stone and sage. The crowd scattered as he burst into the square. His knife flashed once. The ropes fell away from Melin's wrists. He pulled her onto his horse without a word. Without a war cry. Without looking back. They were gone before the first gunshot rang out. The desert swallowed them. Miles passed. In silence broken only by hoofbeats and wind. Ayana felt the woman's grip tighten around his waist as they climbed into the rocky hills. She had stopped trembling. He found shelter in a stand of ancient junipers. The trees grew from cracks in red stone, twisted by decades of wind into natural barriers. He helped her down from the horse. She swayed but did not fall. Ayana unslung his water pouch and offered it to her. She drank carefully, watching his face. He was younger than she had expected. His hands were steady, kind. She pointed to herself. Mei Lin. He touched his chest. Ayana. She attempted the pronunciation. He almost smiled. Behind them, dust. Clouds marked their pursuers. Too many horses, too close. Ayana gestured toward deeper rocks. They climbed in silence, the horse following paths worn by deer in time. The woman moved well despite her torn dress and wounded back. She had the careful steps of someone accustomed to endurance. They reached a shelf of stone overlooking the valley. Below, riders spread across the desert floor like hunting wolves. Holt's voice carried on the wind, sharp with fury. Mei Lin touched Ayana's shoulder. She pointed to the riders, then to herself, then made a cutting motion across her throat. Her meaning was clear. They would kill for her return. Ayana shook his head. He had pulled her from that post. She was under his protection now. The sun climbed toward noon. The riders below cast long shadows as they searched. Ayana watched them through gaps in the rock. 12 men. Well-armed, determined. He knew these canyons. Every spring, every hidden trail, every cave carved by forgotten waters. But the men hunting them knew the territory too, local men. Men. With stakes in Silver Creek's uneasy peace. Mei Lin sat with her back against stone, eyes closed. Blood had dried on her dress. Ayana opened his pack and withdrew a small pouch of herbs. He mixed them with water from his pouch until they formed a paste. She opened her eyes as he approached. He gestured to her back, to the medicine. She hesitated, then turned away from him. Her fingers worked at the torn fabric. The cuts were not deep, but they were angry. Ayana applied the herb paste with careful fingers. The woman sat perfectly still. When he finished, she turned and bowed her head in thanks. The afternoon wore on. The searchers moved methodically through the lower canyons. Ayanna watched them with growing concern. They were not giving up. They would not give up. As shadows lengthened, he made marks in the red dirt with a stick. Simple drawings. A horse. Mountains. A long journey. He pointed east toward Colorado. Territory. Mei Lin studied the drawings. She took the stick and added her own marks. A house, many people. Chains around wrists. She drew an X through it all. She would not go back. Even if it meant death in the desert. Ayanna nodded. He understood. Some things were worth dying for. Freedom was one of them. He drew more figures in the dirt. Men with long hair. His people. He pointed to himself, then to the drawing, then toward the distant mountains where smoke signals sometimes rose. Mei Lin watched his face as understanding. Dawned. He was not just any warrior. He was someone important. Someone with responsibilities beyond her rescue. She reached for the stick and drew a question mark beside his figures. Why had he risked so much for a stranger? Ayanna looked at the drawings, at the woman beside him, at the vast desert stretching toward uncertainty. He had no answer she would understand. Some acts defied explanation. The heart simply moved, and the body followed. Below them, the search party had made camp. Firelight flickered between the rocks. They would resume hunting at first light. Ayanna shouldered his pack and led the horse deeper into the maze of stone. They had the night to put distance between themselves and Silver Creek. By morning, they needed to be ghosts. Mei Lin followed without question. Her trust was complete now. Whatever lay ahead, it could not be worse than what lay behind. The desert stretched endlessly under stars. Each step carried them further from the world that had tried to cage them both. Each step was a choice. Each choice was freedom. The night. Wind whispered through ancient stone, carrying their scent away from hunting dogs and determined men. For now, they were safe. For now, they were free. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new choices, new tests of the fragile bond forming between two people who shared no common language except the universal dialect of survival. But tonight, under the vast western sky, that was enough. Dawn found them at Willow Creek, 30 miles south of Silver Creek. The horses drank while Ayanna studied the horizon through breaks in the cottonwoods. No dust clouds yet. The pursuers were good, but the desert was vast. Mei Lin knelt by the water's edge, washing dried blood from her dress. The fabric would never be white again. Marriage silk had become freedom cloth, stained with the price of choice. A rifle cocked behind them. Step away from the woman. The voice carried the authority of uniform and duty. Ayanna turned slowly, hands visible. A black soldier emerged from the trees, his Springfield aimed steady. Union blue, faded but intact. Buffalo soldiers, they were called. The man's eyes held wariness born of too many battles. He recognized Ayanna's tribe by the cut of his hair, the beadwork on his shirt. Natural enemies, according to the Army manual. Mei Lin rose from the creek. Water dripped from her fingers. She stepped between the rifle and Ayanna without hesitation. The soldier's aim wavered. "Ma'am, you need to move aside." She shook her head. Her English came broken but determined. "He saved me." "Saved you from what?" She gestured to her torn dress, her wounded back. The soldier's expression shifted as understanding dawned. His rifle lowered a fraction. "Name's Ezekiel Freeman. Folks call me Zeke." Ayanna remained silent. Mei Lin spoke for them both. "This is Ayanna. I am Mei Lin." Hoofbeats echoed through the canyon, distant but approaching. Zeke's head snapped toward the sound. His rifle swung between the approaching riders and Ayanna. "That your people coming?" Ayanna shook his head. He pointed toward Mei Lin, then back north toward Silver Creek. The meaning was clear. Hunters, not friends. Zeke made his choice. Mount up, all of us. They rode hard through broken country, 3 fugitives bound by circumstance. The soldier knew trails Ayanna had never seen. Hidden ways used by deserters and outlaws. At midday, they reached a box canyon where a Mexican woman tended goats among the sage. She looked up as they approached, her hand moving instinctively to the knife at her belt. Zeke raised his hand in greeting. Paloma, we need help. The woman's eyes swept over them. The Comanche warrior, the Chinese girl in bloody silk, the deserter soldier. She had seen stranger things in these borderlands. How much trouble? The kind that follows. Paloma nodded toward a hidden lean-to built against the canyon wall. Water's in the gourd, food in the sack. They come asking, I seen nobody. As they settled into the meager shelter, the pieces of their stories emerged through gestures and broken English. Zeke had fled his unit after witnessing atrocities against women and children. Paloma's family ranch had been stolen through legal paperwork and guns. Ayanna's people faced forced relocation from lands they had held for generations. Mei Lin listened to it all. The same story told in different languages. Power taking what it wanted. People reduced to property. The afternoon heat pressed down on the canyon. Zeke cleaned his rifle while watching the entrance. Paloma worked with quiet efficiency, weaving strips of leather into rope. Ayanna sat apart, troubled by thoughts he could not voice. Mei Lin approached him with water and dried meat. She sat beside him in comfortable silence. Then she began to speak, her voice soft, mixing English with Cantonese. She told him about the ship from San Francisco, about her family's debts, about being sold to settle accounts she had never incurred, about Master Wang's promises that marriage would bring security, honor, a future, about discovering that Holt already had a wife, a Mexican woman who cleaned his house and bore his violence in silence, about realizing she would share that woman's fate or worse. Ayanna listened without understanding all the words. He understood the weight they carried. The way her hands moved when she spoke of chains. The way her voice broke when she mentioned home. When she finished, he drew new pictures in the dust. A young man leaving his father's lodge. Scouts ranging far from their people, searching for new hunting grounds as the old ones were fenced and settled. The responsibility of bringing back hope when hope was scarce. He showed her why he had been on that ridge above Silver Creek, not hunting, not raiding, looking for water sources and safe passages for his people's coming exodus. The smoke signals he had ignored to save her. The messages from his father that grew more urgent each day. Mei Lin traced the drawings with her finger. She understood. He had chosen her freedom over his duty. The weight of that choice settled between them. As evening approached, dust appeared at the canyon's mouth. Paloma whistled low. Riders coming. They pressed themselves against the canyon wall, weapons ready. 12 men rode past the hidden entrance, their voices carrying on the still air. Holt's voice rose above the others. 20 miles today. They can't be far. Another voice, older, speaking accented English. Master Wang, still riding with the search party. The girl is strong. She will not slow them down. She better not. I got investors asking questions. The Chinaman situation needs resolving. Wang's silence stretched. Long enough to carry meaning. Even from their hiding place, they could feel his discomfort. The riders moved on. Their dust settled into twilight. Paloma emerged from the lean-to with fresh supplies. Food for the trail. A clean shirt for Mei Lin. Information about the country ahead. They're herding you toward Devil's Canyon, she said. Only so many ways through these rocks. Holt knows them all. Zeke studied the horizon. What's at Devil's Canyon? Bad ground. Easy to trap someone there. She paused. Easy to make people disappear. Ayanna felt the weight of decision settling on him again. His people needed him to return with information about safe passage. But leading Mei Lin into a trap would make his rescue meaningless. The others sensed his struggle. Zeke spoke first. "I got nowhere else to be. Army thinks I'm dead anyway." Paloma hefted her pack. "My brother's in Santa Fe. Haven't seen him in 2 years. Might be time for a visit." Mei Lin took Ayana's hand. Her touch was steady, certain. She had made her choice when she stepped between him and Zeke's rifle. They would face whatever came together. The moon rose full and bright. Travel would be dangerous, but speed was essential. Holt's net was tightening around them. They rode through silver light across broken country. 4 people who should have been enemies, bound by something stronger than the forces that had shaped their separate worlds. Behind them, campfires marked their pursuers' position. Ahead lay Colorado Territory and the promise of federal law. Between lay Devil's Canyon and whatever trap Holt had prepared. The night wind carried voices from the past, Mei Lin's family calling her ungrateful, Zeke's commanding officer calling him traitor, Paloma's neighbors calling her foolish, Ayana's father calling him home. But the voices that mattered rode beside them now. The quiet breathing of trust. The steady rhythm of shared purpose. They had found something worth dying for. More importantly, they had found something worth living for, each other. The desert stretched endless under stars that had watched countless journeys toward freedom. Most ended in failure. Some ended in death. A precious few ended in transformation. The riders pressed on through silver light, chasing the latter possibility across broken ground, where hope and desperation walked hand in hand toward an uncertain dawn. The Comanche warriors appeared at dawn without sound or warning. Ayana woke to find 5 painted figures surrounding their camp, rifles trained on his companions. Their leader stepped forward with the measured gait of earned authority. "Dakota." Ayana's voice carried recognition and resignation. His childhood friend studied the mixed group with undisguised contempt. The Chinese woman, the black soldier, the Mexican rancher's daughter. All the complications his father had warned against. Dakota spoke in rapid Comanche. His words cut sharp as winter wind. Ayana responded quietly, gesturing toward Mei Lin. The exchange grew heated. Zeke's hand drifted toward his sidearm. Paloma placed her fingers on his wrist, stilling the movement. Any sudden motion would end them all. Mei Lin rose slowly from her bedroll. She walked to Ayana's side despite the rifle barrels. Tracking her movement, her presence spoke louder than words. She had chosen her place. Dakota's expression darkened. He barked orders to his men. They began to bind Ayana's hands. "Wait." The voice came from the canyon rim above them. An older Comanche descended the rocky path with deliberate steps. His hair was silver, but his bearing remained strong. War Chief Nalnish, Ayana's father, approached with the weight of leadership and loss. The warriors stepped back. Father and son faced each other across 3 days of separation and a lifetime of expectations. Nalnish spoke first. His words carried the cadence of council meetings and difficult decisions. Ayana listened without argument. When his father finished, he responded with equal gravity. Mei Lin watched the exchange without understanding the language but reading the emotions. Clearly, duty versus conscience. Tradition versus transformation. Love constrained by responsibility. Dakota broke the tension with new information. He drew shapes in the dirt and spoke urgently. Nalnish's expression shifted from disappointment to anger to something approaching revelation. "What's he saying?" Zeke whispered. Ayana's face had gone pale. "Holt's mine. It sits on sacred ground. Burial sites of our ancestors." The implications settled over the group. Federal law protected native burial grounds. Holt's illegal mining operation suddenly made sense of his desperation. Losing Mei Lin meant losing his connection to cheap Chinese labor. More importantly, it meant risking discovery of his crimes. Paloma pulled a leather pouch from her pack. She spilled papers onto the ground between the two groups. I've been collecting these for months. Bills of sale, mining claims, shipping manifests. She pointed to specific documents. This one shows him selling silver 3 months before his legal claim was approved. This one shows him bribing territorial officials. Master Wang emerged from behind a cluster of boulders. His appearance startled everyone except Nalnish, who nodded as if he had been expected. I have been following at distance, Wang said. His English carried new weight, as if a burden had lifted. Mr. Holt does not know. He produced his own papers, contracts, correspondence, a careful record of every illegal transaction he had witnessed or been forced to participate in. I have daughter in San Francisco, same age as Melin. His voice caught. When I see what they do to you, I remember why I come to America, not to make more chains. Nalnish studied the documents. His knowledge of English was better than he typically revealed. The scope of Holt's operation became clear. Desecration of sacred sites, theft of federal land, exploitation of immigrant workers. Dakota spoke again, his tone urgent. More riders approaching, not Holt's men this time. Comanche scouts bringing news from the territorial capital. The lead scout dismounted and spoke rapidly to Nalnish. The chief's expression grew grim. He turned to address the entire group in careful English. Government men come to Silver Creek tomorrow. They investigate reports of illegal mining. Someone sent word. All eyes turned to Master Wang. He inclined his head. I write letters, many letters to Territorial Governor. 2. Federal Mining Office. To Army Commander. Why? Mei Lin asked in Cantonese. Wang answered in English so all could understand. Because I tire of being afraid. Because you show me what courage looks like. The morning sun climbed higher, revealing the scope of their situation. Holt knew federal investigators were coming. His only options were flight or eliminating witnesses. Given his investment in Silver Creek, flight seemed unlikely. Nalnish made his decision with the authority of generations. He would escort the group to safety while his warriors guided the federal investigators to the desecrated burial sites. Justice would be served through law rather than war. Dakota protested. The old language flowed between the warriors in heated exchanges. Some supported their chief's choice. Others argued for traditional solutions. A gunshot echoed through the canyon. Then another. The debate ended as everyone took cover behind rocks and scrub. Holt's voice carried from the canyon entrance. I know you're in there, Wang. Bring me the girl and we'll settle this peaceful-like. Paloma cursed under her breath. He's got my brother Miguel with him. Saw him ride into town yesterday. Through gaps in the rocks they could see the search party. 15 men now, well armed, determined. A young Mexican boy sat bound on horseback beside Holt. Last chance, Holt called. The boy for the girl. Otherwise, things get unpleasant for everyone. Mei Lin started to rise. Ayana caught her arm. She looked at him with quiet resolve. One life to save another, the arithmetic of sacrifice. Nalnish spoke quietly to his warriors. They spread out along the canyon walls with practiced stealth. The chief had fought the army, Mexican troops, and competing tribes. He understood tactics. Master Wang stood slowly, hands visible. Mr. Holt, we should talk. Time for talking's over, Chinaman. You got something that belongs to me. You are mistaken. No person belongs to another. Holt's laughter carried no humor. Pretty words. Won't save you when the territorial boys get here and find out you've been harboring stolen property. Perhaps they will be interested in your property as well. The mine that sits on restricted federal land. The silence stretched taut as bowstring. Holt had not expected his secret to be known. Careful, Wang. Accusations are dangerous things. Truth is more dangerous. Nalnish used the distraction to signal his warriors. They moved through the shadows with generations of hunting experience. The canyon that had seemed like a trap was becoming a fortress. Zeke checked his rifle. 6 shots. Not enough for 15 men, but enough to make a difference. Paloma gripped her father's old Colt. Ayanna strung his bow with hands steady as stone. Mei Lin touched each of their shoulders in turn. Her meaning was clear. Whatever happened, they faced it together. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of sage and distant rain. Somewhere beyond the canyon, federal marshals rode toward Silver Creek with warrants and questions. Justice approached on horseback while injustice gathered at the canyon mouth. Between them stood 4 people who had learned to call each other family. People who had chosen conscience over comfort, truth over safety, each other over the worlds. That had tried to cage them. The confrontation could no longer be avoided. Too many secrets had been revealed. Too many lines had been crossed. Too much truth had been spoken to take back. Holt's ultimatum hung in the air with the dust and heat. The boy's life for Mei Lin's freedom. An impossible choice that demanded an answer. Nalnish stepped into the open, his voice carrying the authority of leadership and the weight of years. Mr. Holt, I am Nalnish of the Comanche. You trespass on sacred ground. You will leave now or face consequences. The words settled like stones thrown into still water. Ripples of meaning spread through both groups. The game had changed. The stakes had risen. War chief and mine owner faced each other across ground that had seen generations of conflict. This time, right and wrong seemed clearer than they had. In decades, Holt's rifle swung toward Nalnish. The movement was fluid, practiced. A man accustomed to solving problems with violence. I don't negotiate with savages. The word hung in the desert air. Nalnish did not flinch. He had heard worse. From better men. Then you negotiate with these. Hoofbeats echoed from the canyon's far end. 3 riders approached under a federal flag. Territorial marshals, badges gleaming in the morning sun. Nalnish's scouts had guided them well. Holt's face went pale. His men looked to him for orders. That did not come. The lead marshal rode forward with the authority of federal law. Bartholomew Holt, you're under arrest for illegal mining operations on restricted land. This is a mistake. I have proper claims. Master Wong stepped into view. The leather satchel in his hands contained months of careful documentation. No mistake, Marshal. I have evidence. Wong approached the lawman with steady steps. His fear had burned away, leaving only purpose. He spoke quietly to the marshal, handing over papers that would end Holt's empire. Mei Lin watched the scene unfold with wonder. The man who had once raised a whip against her now offered salvation through law and courage. Holt's men began to drift away. Hired guns had no loyalty when the money stopped flowing. Within minutes, his force had shrunk to 3 desperate men and a frightened boy. This isn't over, Holt snarled. I got contracts, investors, people who depend on my operation. Built on stolen land, the marshal replied, using forced labor, breaking federal law. Ayanna felt the tension leave his shoulders. Justice through law, not war. His father's wisdom had prevailed. Paloma stepped forward. Marshal, that's my brother on the horse. Miguel Reyes, he's done nothing wrong. The lawman nodded to his deputies. They moved to free the boy while keeping weapons trained on Holt's remaining men. Miguel slid from his horse and ran to his sister's arms. The reunion was brief but fierce. Family protecting family. Holt made his final play. His hand moved toward his sidearm. Zeke's rifle spoke first, the bullet striking stone, inches from Holt's boots. Don't, Zeke said quietly. Just don't. The fight went out of Holt's shoulders. He raised his hands in surrender. His empire of exploitation crumbled to dust and legal documents. The marshals worked efficiently, handcuffs, formal charges. Rights. Explained with bureaucratic precision. Justice moved slowly, but it moved. As the prisoners were loaded onto horses, Master Wang approached Mei Lin. He spoke in Cantonese, his voice heavy with regret and hope. She listened without anger. When he finished, she responded in English so all could understand. You chose to change. That matters more than past mistakes. Wang bowed deeply. The gesture carried the weight of genuine respect. 6 months later, the Colorado Territory stretched golden under autumn sun. The town of New Haven had grown around a school built with federal compensation for desecrated burial grounds. Mei Lin stood before a classroom of mixed faces. Chinese children learning English, Comanche children learning to read, Mexican children discovering geography, all of them discovering each other. Her English had grown strong through daily use. Her confidence had grown stronger through daily choices. Ayana appeared in the doorway as lessons ended. The children scattered to their families with the energy of youth and promise. He waited as she gathered her papers. The tribal council meets tomorrow, he said. Final approval for the new treaty. She nodded. His work as liaison between his people and the territorial government had borne fruit. Fair compensation, protected lands, mutual respect written into law. Master Wang's daughter arrives next week, she said. From San Francisco. You're nervous. Happy. It's different. They walked together toward the settlement. New Haven had grown organically around the school. Chinese merchants, Comanche craftsmen, Mexican farmers, former Buffalo soldiers training territorial police. Not paradise, but progress. Zeke emerged from the sheriff's office, badge pinned to his vest. His transformation from deserter to lawman had surprised no one who knew his character. Paloma's back from Santa Fe, he reported. The land court ruled in her favor. Full restoration of family property. Good news traveled fast in small communities. New Haven celebrated each victory against old injustices. The evening gathered them around Paloma's table, food from 4 cultures. Stories in 3 languages. Laughter that needed no translation. Later, Mei Lin and Ayana walked to the cliff dwellings where they had first found sanctuary. The ancient stones held memories of other people who had sought shelter from hostile worlds. Do you miss China? He asked. She considered the question seriously. I miss the idea of home. But home isn't a place you remember, it's a place you build. The desert spread below them, vast and patient. Somewhere in that vastness, new communities were forming. People choosing cooperation over conflict, understanding over fear. Not everywhere, not everyone, but enough to matter. Ayana spoke his first complete sentence in English. You are free, Mei Lin responded in fluent Comanche. We are all free. The words carried further than sound. They carried into possibility, into futures written by people brave enough to choose change over comfort. They rode toward their respective communities as stars emerged overhead. The same stars that had watched their desperate flight now witnessed their purposeful return. Each carried responsibilities now, students to teach, treaties to honor, communities to build. But their paths would continue to cross as they worked to expand the definition of home. The American West was changing, not through conquest or force, but through the patient work of people who refused to accept that things had to stay broken. In New Haven, children who should have been enemies played together in dusty streets. In the surrounding territory, former adversaries negotiated shared solutions to common problems. The transformation was slow, incomplete, fragile, but it was real. Under Western stars, freedom meant something new. Not the freedom to take what you wanted, but the freedom to become what you chose. Mei Lin and Ayana had chosen each other, chosen their communities, chosen hope over fear and growth over stagnation. The choice made all the difference. The desert wind carried their voices toward tomorrow, where new challenges waited alongside new possibilities. They would face both together, as they had learned. To face everything, with courage, with dignity, with the quiet strength of people who had discovered that the greatest freedom comes from choosing to protect and nurture the freedom of others. The West was wide enough for all of them. It just took people brave enough to make it so. And that is all to the story for now. Please let me know where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. And if you enjoy our content, click this video on your screen. I promise you, it's worth watching. See you tomorrow.